Questions and comments this time, please. Go ahead, Jacob.
Brother Noah, you mentioned TikTok, and I'll admit, you want to know how to spend 9 hours a day. I can't keep TikTok on my phone, or else that's how 9 hours in a day goes. It's a really good, resourceful tool that has a lot of potential, but have you heard about supposedly next month it's getting, if I could use modern day slang, canceled? And so what are your thoughts on that, and how can we be a step ahead with if it were to be deleted or what have you?
I've heard rumblings about that. It's more of a political issue, questions about surveillance, because the parent company of TikTok is based in China. And so there's some security concerns about the app. But I'll tell you what, since TikTok blew up, nearly every other app has added short form video features. Facebook, if you see Facebook Reels, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, that's the way that all these platforms are trending. And so if TikTok goes away, there's still certainly a space for the short form content. It's just everywhere at this point.
Matt Barnes.
I really enjoyed it, Noah. I haven't gotten to talk to you as much about this as maybe Chris and some others. And we've been doing some research on this as well. And I'm terrible at the style of things you guys are doing. But I think one thing that's important to know, you're going to be terrible at it when you get started. You got to be comfortable with how bad it's going to be. And I wanted to ask your thoughts on another style of this that I've come across in a guy who's worked in a social media company specifically for churches for the past 20 years or so. And he says that churches have a specific advantage because one of the challenges is content creation, regular content creation. And we have an advantage because every Sunday we have teachers who study, prepare a message, get up and present it. And if we're recording that, you have the potential to draw good content out of that for these posts. And I think the challenge is finding the hook, like you said. And so what's come to my mind as I've been working towards that goal, hopefully to start sometime in the next year, is I think as we teach, as we prepare our sermons, we're thinking about this audience here, within these walls. And we, over the years, tend to teach a certain way. And it can be harder to find those intersections, those hooks that are so relevant to the culture around us because we're not teaching as much to unbelievers and outsiders. So maybe it's important we start putting in our mindset as we prepare our lessons, you're going to be teaching to a larger audience than just that Sunday morning assembly. And to have that kind of in your mind as you prepare it and maybe even make lessons that, again, get back to the basics of the gospel, get to those things people need to hear about, that allows you to have that content creation built in. I just want to get some of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. As preachers, we have to always be prepared for who's in our audience that day. There are times where I got ready to preach and then 9 visitors walked in the door 5 minutes before church. I thought, okay, I need to think about how to adapt some of what I'm saying to them. And so that's completely relevant. And the same is true if you're creating content for social media. We've got to speak in a way that puts the gospel in terms people understand. If we just say you need to be saved from your sins, a lot of people don't understand that. When we tell them this is going to help you get out of being addicted to drugs or being faithful to your spouse, these are terms that people understand and that they're looking for. I want to say something about you're going to fail, but you need to do it anyway. One of our favorite ads is one that I created right after the eclipse, which was local to this area. And it was based off a conversation I had with my neighbor after watching the eclipse. I just shot a little video of myself saying, if you were as amazed by what just happened as I was, come to church this Sunday. I want you to know that was done by God. There is a God in heaven, and I want to invite you to come to church and learn about who He is. I ran that ad here. There There were a lot of things bad with it, and it flopped. It was a total flop. When we tweaked some things and we honed it in, Chris ran the same ad in Abilene, and people came to church off of that ad. So it's worth doing, even though you're going to fail at first. You get better at it over time.
Chris Jones.
First of all, Noah, thank you. You know, I've been talking a lot with Noah. I'm working through some of these things with Noah a lot, and I really appreciate your presentation. My question is this, Noah. I know we have discussed this, but maybe we could discuss it maybe a little broader. I know I've heard from several people that, hey, we have tried this before and we didn't get anything, or it didn't work. How is what you're suggesting different than maybe what people have tried before, or maybe things that are going on right now that are working, but what are you suggesting that maybe is different about this?
Yes. Well, as far as ads that have been run on Facebook, we've maybe all had experiences, I have, of an ad that seemed to do great and tens of thousands of people saw it. Nobody came to church. Engagement is the answer. It always is. There was not something that was a strong hook, or there was not a strong call to action. If you have a fantastic ad, but then there's no call to action, no one's motivated to respond to it. There have been some ads that did well, but we accidentally had the setting turned off where people could send a direct message to the page. Nobody knew how to respond. Nobody knew how to reach out. And so it's like the seed that fell on the hard ground. The interest died. And so what we're talking about is looking at creating content that makes sense and fits the platform. It's like if you tried to take an old radio program and put it on TV. It wouldn't fit. It would feel wrong there because it wasn't created for television. It was created for radio. If you try to take something that's a TV show and put it on YouTube, or even worse, on TikTok or Facebook, it doesn't always resonate because it's just not how people consume media in that form. So that's what I've seen and why this has worked in other areas it hasn't.
Okay, Jason Kuhn.
Excellent job, Noah. I know we've talked about this a lot, and this was just fantastic. Can you speak to the editing process and maybe what some techniques you've learned that are useful, what specific type of editing do these types of videos need?
I will say the editing is the largest roadblock to your efficiency in creating these things, because it takes about 3 times as long to edit as it does to actually shoot things, if you want to do it right. I will say the most important thing is your message has to resonate with people. And what you'll see on YouTube is there are a lot of people who have no fancy equipment, no fancy editing. They get millions of views because you look at them and you think, I want to hear what they have to say on that subject. And so if you're an engaging speaker, that carries a lot of the load. But as far as some of the technical aspects, there's got to be some energy. Attention spans are short. That's not a good thing, in my opinion, but that's the way things are. And so, like Spurgeon said about street preaching, you really have to come to the point, grab people's attention, and be energetic in what you're saying. Something that also helps is subtitles that are hard-coded into the video that people can't turn off. And you put them right in the middle of the screen. It looks weird, but when you're watching it on a cell phone, you don't even perceive. It doesn't block the video. But at the same time, you're able to watch the video and read the text with the sound off. There have been times I watched a video like 3 times with the sound off, and then I watched it a 4th time before I turned the sound on. And the subtitles made the difference. There's a lot more we could talk about, but that's just off the top of my head.
Brian Minter.
My question's a kind of a combination of 3 and 4. I think it was Wreck-It Ralph that pointed out this: don't wander into the comment section. Humanity can get very vile in there. As Facebook page administrators, how do you moderate? Where do you draw the line between delete, respond, possibly ignore? And especially if someone is using profanity, do we keep that on our page and address it? Or do we just delete the comment, message them, please phrase your comment more correctly without profanity? Looking for your thoughts on how do we moderate the Church of Christ Grapevine page?
That's a fantastic question. And that's one area that I've changed how I would respond from the end of this year versus the start. You have to remember, someone who takes the time to comment anything, there's some kernel of interest. If I don't care or I'm not engaged, I just scroll on. I don't comment anything. But people, even who want to get on and they want to blast some opinion, there's something there. Something is engaging them. And I think it's worth the time, every time, to respond and find out why. I can illustrate this 2 different ways. We had this one fellow who got on one of our ads and he said, I liked Yahweh a lot better when he was a Canaanite storm god who had 9 wives and 70 children. And I said, I've never heard that about God before. Could you show me in the Bible where you read that? Because I'd like to know. He responded with this whole crazy thing that I didn't engage with. Answer not a fool according to his folly. But I left that up because it showed people, this guy's crazy. He's not a Bible scholar. And my simple, moderate response just laid that out for everybody else to see. You'll be amazed. Sometimes people you don't even know hop in the comments and they'll defend for you. And it's all engagement, so it's all good. Now, there's another fellow who saw that ad that I showed you about community. And he left a comment. He said, I wish there was something like this for people who don't go to church. Now, that was a moment of decision. I came close to deleting that, but Chris Jones told me, he said, no, ask him why. Why did he say that? And I did. And he said, you know, I don't believe in God, and it's nothing personal. I just don't believe in him. But I'm lonely. You know, the world's dark. I wish I had a community of people who really cared about me, just like was described. I ended up meeting that atheist for coffee. We had coffee for an hour and a half. I did not bring up anything about Christianity. He brought it up 15 minutes in, and he left that interaction, and he went and bought a Bible. And he asked me, what book should I read first? So you never know. Some people comment in anger because they're truly hurting. There are some people who are just there to spout off. But I think it's worth making an effort to engage with them to see if there's any opportunity. Now, as far as profanity, I will just say briefly, people in the world communicate with profanity a lot of the time. And some people, that's just all they've ever known. And so I treat it the same as if I was talking to someone off the street and they start using profanity. I tend to just kind of ignore it, try to talk past it. If it becomes prolific, I just say, hey, I'm not really comfortable with that. Can you pick some nicer words to use as we talk? And so I trend toward being less concerned about the profanity and more concerned about steering the conversation to the gospel. But I think that's a conversation we can continue to have.
Let's see if we can get through 4 in 4 minutes. David Griffin.
I know this is social media 101, but could you talk a little bit about how these videos you've made, kind of how you've targeted them geographically, and the personal interactions, I mean, that require you to, you know, make a 100-mile trip somewhere?
Yes, sir.
You know, just that general question.
This is a significant point to bring up because we have actually left the targeting settings very broad. What I mean is the only setting that we've set on these ads is we show it to everybody within a certain radius of the church building. Now, I would change that depending on what's normal driving distance for your congregation. For us in Arlington, it's 5 miles or less because we got a large population density. For a place like Abilene, it might be 10 or 15 miles. In Brookhaven, Mississippi, when we try this, we set it to 25. But you want to set it within a reasonable driving distance of the church, and that's all you want to set. These days, there's some AI working behind Facebook that will automatically set settings if you let it. And it's very good at learning who is likely to respond to the ad. And so you generally don't want to touch the ad settings. Typically, it defaults to sending, when people click on the ad, it invites them to send a message to the Facebook page. And we've had great success with that because it gets you talking to people who live within driving distance of the congregation. And that's who you're interacting with. I would say also, the bulk of the focus needs to be not on the Facebook ad settings, but the message of the video. Because that is what is going to speak to the person who's watching it, is the actual script and the visuals of what they're seeing in the video.
Melvin Blaylock. We're not going to take any more questions, please. We got 2 more after Melvin, so I can't take any more after that.
Appreciate your comments very much. I consider myself very technologically challenged being my age, but I've been writing on Facebook for several years. I post an article every Monday morning on the Facebook page at Cleburne and also the Facebook page at Weatherford.
Yes, sir.
And I kind of present one of my little mini sermons on those pages. And last week I had 2,100 likes on the article I wrote, 156 comments, 214 shares just on those little sermons, which are usually about 400 words long, something like that. You know, I try to keep it fairly brief. But I think what you're doing is probably much more effective, really, because you try to put that hook out there, as you said, and I suspect that's really probably a more effective way to go. And so I've been very interested in that. I may need to get you to show me some more about that a little later on. But I think the social media is really a great way to get the word out, that's for sure.
Brother, that is awesome. And that highlights something else which is great, is that if you create content, it makes it easy for other people in the church to share. And that's how things really spread and get visible, is simply other people sharing that content. I'll tell you one thing that could increase your engagement, brother. Take all that text and say it in a video. Hold your phone like this and just talk to people about all the things you wrote. If you ask a teenager, when's the last time you read a long article on social media? Most will say, I can't even remember. But I guarantee all of them watched a video today. That may help you.
Greg Gay?
So like many others sitting around during COVID, I started a Facebook group. I decided to do mine private, and I know that's a bingo word for some here. My group was private by invitation only, and it eventually, within a year or two, has spread to over 70 countries around the world. The demographics for who uses what system is different around the world. I'm only on Facebook, and the age statistics say that it's mostly 20 to 40-year-olds that are members of my Facebook group outside of the United States. Well, as a result of that, that led to, as soon as I had a significant population of members, interest in me going to preach there, which I then, as soon as I had serious questions, and not just requests for money, but when you get a serious question, which may be 1 out of 1,000 of exchanges and messages, that's what led to now several congregations in northern India. It's led to congregations in Kenya. It's led to nearly 200 congregations in Uganda. And I've said all of that to say this: if you plan for success, and you do have success, you will very soon be overwhelmed. Now, I set up my private Facebook group privately. It is a one-man show. No one else has access to administer my Facebook page. And I'm at my desk 12 hours a day. Now, if you have success in a 5-mile circle, and you're the only one that has anything to do with this work, you will be completely overwhelmed. And so if we're going to do a work, where are we going to do it? As it turned out, I can hang on with what I'm doing through others and try to train them remotely. I couldn't begin to handle a lot of success within a 5-mile circle. And I would suggest, as young as you are and as much energy as you have, neither can you. And so if you have others in the congregation, if you plan for success, you will have to say, what is our infrastructure for doing this as we begin? Or else you literally spend a lot of time and end up with the frustration of not being able to do what you know you need to do with the leads you've generated.
Yes, sir. When the Lord distributed the talents to his servants, he didn't give every single talent to the one guy, even though he was completely competent. He distributed them. To be effective leaders, we have to delegate. And let me tell you, there are young people sitting in your congregation who are itching for something that they can do to help the church. This might be it.
Last question, Bob Cunningham.
This is more just a comment from someone who talked to a lot of people, one-on-one for a lot of years. On the profanity thing, my experience has been if you just ignore the profanity, if they're really engaging, they'll eventually stop. Now, that may not happen in all cases. That's happened a lot of times with me. I just ignore it, and they eventually kind of, okay, this may not be appropriate, and they stop. But that's just some on the profanity.
Thank you, sir.
You have a closing thought you'd like to share?
I do. We don't often use public transportation here in the United States, but if you've ever traveled abroad and you rely on it to get from one place to another, you know that there is no greater gut-wrenching feeling than missing the train. Especially if you're standing on the platform watching it pull away without you on board. I am worried that we're going to miss the train. We missed the internet when it came out. We missed MySpace. We missed Facebook. YouTube came out 10 years ago. And I'm worried we're going to miss the social media train too. It's pulling down the tracks already. And my hope is simply, if we will really wake up and get serious, that we can catch up and we can hop on.